Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, first of all, for joining us in the CIO dinner discussion this evening. I'm extremely impressed with everyone showing up, not just on time, but ahead of time. I think all my threatening emails have done some wonders, so thank you very much. The purpose here, once again, is to get a discussion going, and we're extremely grateful that all of you could spare your time. I'd like to just very briefly tell you what's going to happen today, and then, I guess, open up the mics so that we can also get this discussion going. But before I do that, it's extremely important to put things into context. And when I say context, certain people I have to thank for making these evenings possible, in addition to your contribution. First of all, I'm extremely indebted to Mr. Raza Harun, who's the Sindh IT Minister. Thank you very much. These are now confirmations that I'm getting from you for over SMS that you are available, and thank you very much for your time. So can you please give him a big round of applause? I'm also extremely grateful for, and I would like to now officially welcome, even though this is the third time now I'm meeting you today, Mr. Apurva Shah, who's the Alliance Manager for Naval for India and Pakistan. And you know, we're great that, as Raza Saab said, Sania and Mirza on one side, and I guess NDS and Novel on the other side, and a lot more company. So welcome here, and we hope in the next 3 or 4 days that you're in Pakistan, in Karachi, that we can be great hosts and that you can get to meet with a lot of people. So can you please give him a big round of applause? This evening, and of course I'd also like to see, that's the thing about unnamed seating. Mr. Pervez Hanif, who is the CEO of NDS Technologies, who are partners with Novell, and that's actually on his invitation that Apurva is here with us this evening. So extremely grateful for you to take the initiative to give us an excuse to have a gathering. So we need to give you a round of applause too. What's going to happen this evening? Well, it's about an hour and 45 minutes or so of just a discussion. The topic at hand, as all of you have been getting through email, this entire concept of green. Everyone wants to be green, but what does green actually mean? And during the registration process for this event and for the event that's upcoming on the 15th of April, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., we've asked a lot of people to outline and identify what are some of their challenges. Data center, do you have a data center? How does this work? What is your biggest challenge trying to get that data center from whatever the infrastructure is currently to becoming some more of an integral part of your of achieving operational efficiency? Those things and more. This morning I actually had a little bit of breakfast, but a heavy dose of how Novell actually works in terms of intelligent workload management. You have data passing through your organization, left, right, and center, and it even surpasses through your firewalls and into the public domain. How do you make sure that every byte that goes through adds to your operational efficiency? It all comes down to that. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what's going to happen. I've got a bunch of questions that I'd like to find out the answers to from all of our distinguished guests here. So it's actually more of you and less of me. Just like this morning, it was more of Novell and fewer parathas and Hanafi. There was actually none of that at all. But before we proceed, Raza Sahab, I know you have to leave, so I'm going to not hold it against you. But I do hope that you can take some of the conversation away, because I know that the Sindh IT government is also extremely pro-technology. There's a lot of work that's being done, which a lot of us are a part of or would like to be a part of, and perhaps you don't, in terms of creating that collaborative ecosystem. We can also move ahead that way. Apurva, would you like to add to anything that I've missed out? Because that 45-minute was quite an intense one this morning.
Yeah, I think that has been enough because she's covered most of the points that we wanted to bring in, right? Because I think it's not really 1 hour 45 minutes, but probably it is about 25 to 1 hour 45 minutes of businessful time, right? So we want to quickly get onto a discussion to basically get an idea of what are the pain points and challenges that we are seeing globally. Are they being validated in the markets of Pakistan? And basically try to bring some technologies and some architectures and some visions and stuff like those, not so heavy, to to leave you thinking, saying that are you really thinking on those lines, are they relevant and so forth? Yeah. Thank you.
As I said, at any time you would like to, before you leave, we would like to hear something from you, but whether it's now or later is entirely up to you. Like I said, it's a very informal discussion, despite the fact that I'm the only one with a cordless mic, so I get to hog all the airtime I want. But I think whenever you're comfortable, just give me the go ahead, and I'll hand the airways over to you. I think very quickly, how about this? If we can just go around the room and introduce ourselves, we try and use these as maximum networking opportunities for all of you. So it benefits me because I have to write an article, I know Reba is going to write something. But beyond just the journalist types, it has to benefit you because yes, a lot of us are going through similar pain points. So let's identify who we are, just talk about your organization, give it about a minute and a half, and then let's get down to the nitty-gritty and the discussion itself. So we can start with you, sir.
Sure. Sharifuddin from NDS Technologies.
There we go.
I'm Julie Shibiki. I'm a senior reporter in the Financial Daily newspaper.
Okay. Very good, sir. You can hang on the mic too.
Tobias Anish, CEO NDS Technologies. Thank you for coming.
Majid from Coimbatore.
Martin Zola has been one of the most difficult people to get in touch with, honestly. We're very grateful for you.
Imran Dawati, Engo Corporation.
Zahiruddin Asif from IBM. Naman Sheikh, Verichex. Alice UXS.
Mary James, NIB.
Shabir Rabi was our Duchess to come.
Arun, Minister Information Technology.
Kushno Dahta, Piper Technology.
Mohammed Khalid Shah from Awari Hotels.
Nadeem Hassan from the One Star Group. Anis Iqbal from Iran Television.
Tanya Abbas from Spider Magazine. Nina Shahid from Spider Magazine.
Shuja Rahman from Hilton Farm. Akram Ali, Hilton Farm.
Uru Shah from Dubai.
Thank you once again for the introduction. Okay, now let's start off with this question. What is your biggest challenge in managing data? For those of you who head IT, or CIOs or head of IT departments, what is your biggest challenge in trying to manage your data within your organization? Just can anyone let us know what one challenge might be? I know there are lots. Teresa? Size. Can you just speak in the mic? The size of the data or size of the organization?
Size of the data.
Okay.
From a storage standpoint. Size of data from storage standpoint. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else? So size is one. The gentleman in the back. Information security and confidentiality. Anybody else?
Huge number of servers.
Unconsolidated servers. Okay, so lots of servers, lots of hardware to deal with. Anyone else?
DIR processes.
Quick retrieval of data on time. Quick retrieval of relevant information on time.
Okay. I can already see this agenda going into a very interesting one.
DIR processes. Disaster recovery.
Okay.
Challenge of over here.
Yeah, that's it.
Challenge of selling the ILM implementation to the business. Because somehow the ILM I just retranslated that information lifecycle management, multi-tiering of data. As IT, we don't see that as an issue, but actually business has a lot of apprehension, slicing and dicing of the data. So it's very difficult to sell it to business. That's how you would like it. Although there's no problem with lifecycle, retention, size, volume of data is not a problem, but having them convinced to buy that idea is the biggest challenge.
So you're talking about more from justifying an ROI is perhaps what it is?
Or probably getting the investments from business people in IT?
Not really in that context, but the idea of having an online archivals and having a multi-tiered storage system to store the data, because people have this concept the moment you bring in the word archive, that means it's gone offline, it's disappeared.
The way data is growing nowadays, it's the biggest challenge in itself. You have different types of data. You have engineering data, you have ERP data, you have business intelligence data. and it's really a big challenge in how to maintain this data in a single place and how to archive it, how to manage it, and this is one of the challenges we are facing at this point.
Okay. So storage and Noam?
Well, I have a slightly different angle to this problem because my biggest challenge has been to find cheaper gear. Everything is branded, it's way too expensive, and to train resources who can understand what data is, what data center is. So that has been my biggest challenge here in Pakistan.
Okay.
So is that more from context of getting a low-cost IT infrastructure to manage your services, or is it more from the context of having the right people coming and talking low-cost solutions to you?
No, it's the availability of low-cost solutions, because if you have, let's say, 10 different systems, 2 of them business will pay. But like the remaining 8, you have to make do with some low-end, low-cost commodity hardware.
Probably the ROI being required to be demonstrated to the business, maybe that's not getting out to the business side, right? That why do we get into this idea?
For an email server, I mean, you're going to buy $1 million server for email? I mean, I don't know who can do an ROI on that.
Absolutely.
Marjasa, you've got a tremendous setup. What kind of challenge do you have?
Basically, right now we have faced challenges regarding the storage and maintain the data as well. And we are planning to create our DR site as well and purchase some storage.
Zaitsa, are you ready?
I think challenge which we face usually is finding the right consultant, quality service provider. I think this is one of the main challenges in Pakistan which we are facing.
So finding the right people, Noman, that's similar. I mean, you're looking at it from perhaps a different level, but what they're looking for is even to give the advice and so on and so forth. So we've identified a couple of things. So there's DR, there's storage, there's access to stored information, there's all of these things. I'm wondering now, we've got a couple of solution providers here also. Is this something similar that you've heard of? Because I know you also take care of companies in India.
Yeah, so to my mind, I think we're seeing similar challenges everywhere, right? Whether it is India or Pakistan or globally. One of the biggest challenge, which probably I was talking with Faisal in the morning when we met him in Piper, was around the fact that technology, for its own essence, is being positioned to you as customers more like something which you don't understand, and it's most of the time jargons, right? So you basically get into the discussion of saying that, well, you need storage, and then you need to manage it, and then you need to look about the security and compliance. But most of the times, we really miss the basic question around the fact that I do need storage, there's absolutely no idea about it. But why do I need so much storage? Isn't there a way to optimize that storage in the first place? Right? So I was hearing someone saying online archiving and you get lost around that data from a perception standpoint. I heard someone saying that then we've got tons and tons of storage size, right? And if we look at what we're trying to do and what we're hearing from customers today is, customer is not really talking to us as a technology infrastructure software vendor, saying that tell me what your technology is. But the customer basically wants to hear from us that I have a problem which is agnostic to a technology, tell me how you could help me solve. Right? Come in my seat and say, there are going to be 20 vendors coming to me and saying my technology is best because of this feature set. My approach is better because of the brand value that I have in the marketplace. But then nobody really wanting to come in and say what exactly is the real problem, right? Not to say that we're trying to bring all the answers for the problems, but I think we're trying to figure out how do we intelligently do stuff in the first place so that we don't reach a problem statement when we say how do we manage this complex and huge IT environment, right? And what we're also seeing in the market otherwise is the fact that a lot of people want to bring in the open source technologies, right? So people are talking about Linux, people are talking about open source mails, open source security, so on and so forth, right? And Again, the biggest challenge there for customers that we hear is not in terms of that, well, I don't want open source, but it's more from the context of that, does that mean that whatever I've done in the last 5-6 years of investing in proprietary technologies all goes down the drain, right? Because what we've seen hearing customers sharing with us is that, well, if you want open source, you have to do away with proprietary, right? And I'm not even talking novel now. I'm just saying this is what we hear from customers. A customer says, well, I acquired a small company, a bank or a textile mill or someone, and we acquired a small company. It was a startup company. They could not invest in IT, so they had a lot of innovative homegrown solutions. And I want to now integrate those homegrown solutions into our existing enterprise-wide ILM-based IT strategies or DSM-based IT strategies, or the idea and frameworks that we have around our management pieces. Vendor is coming and saying, well, look at my technology, but nobody is coming and saying, let me help you integrate what I have acquired, because that is something which I want to retain and integrate it into my existing environment. So these are some challenges that we see.
Is that something that any of you face here? What about Imran? Is that something that sounds familiar to you?
That sounds quite familiar. I think I would like to add one more thing. It's not just vendors. Vendors were doing box selling before, as you said. Now they have started to focus on solutions. The challenge we still have is that after they give the solution, who's going to support it? They still haven't overcome that barrier yet. So the solutions are out there. We understand that there are some case studies out there. Some people are using them and doing, and some people are doing okay. But from a general marketplace, the skill set is not as prevalent as it's supposed to be, or pervasive actually. So once they put it in and they walk away, is it going to last? Am I going to still be able to run it 5 years from now, even 3 years from now? And how am I going to expand it or support it?
In a way, you're not really looking at the solution, but you're increasing complexity, right? Because now there's support issues and so on and so forth. The interesting thing here is, and probably that is one of our key discussions today, because one of the clear mandates which we have from Rabia is that we're not going to be talking any product per se, right? We're not going to be saying, we're here because we have this product to do this solution for you and you should be looking at us. We don't want to talk that. However, what we want to talk to you is really from a context of being a technology company and being a software development company, right? I'm sure most of you know well from the old days of Netware. We are one of those companies which try to pick trends in the industry, right? And try to align to those trends so that we can compete in those markets. The challenge around support, the challenge around security, the challenge around solutions, the way we see now is going to be multi-fold increased because there's a new animal coming called cloud computing, where the infrastructure, the services are not going to be in your control. And your business is actually going to push you to say, why are you managing all of these? And there are service providers like Cubex or maybe Amazon and so on and so forth who could probably outsource it for you, right? So I fully agree to the fact that yes, there is a lack of skill sets and any vendor who works in this market needs to address that. But on the other hand, I also assume that US customers need to demand more. Our observation over the last 2 years in this market, working with NDS as a sole distributor, and obviously that's like little dicey because a lot of people will say, oh, you're working only with one partner. Well, we're not selling so much. But on the other side, we look at it more from a context of saying that in this market, when people look at open source, they don't look at open source, they look at free and open source. They say open source is free. Open source is not free. Now that's what we're trying to educate to customers. Please demand more. If somebody is coming and saying that I'm going to give you a Linux solution at this cost, etc., rather than looking at the software, ask him what's your SLA for services. Ask him how are you going to train our folks on the Linux solution that we're trying to propose.
So my question to you is, what is your biggest peeve with vendors? All of you. I mean, all of you deal with vendors at one time or another. Whether it's Dr. Zaghi from IBA or even with Planetary, you are a service provider, so I can't put you on this spot. But I mean, whether it's Hilton Pharma or NCCPL, you are all dealing with vendors. What is your biggest concern with vendors in trying to access support?
Well, our environment is a very good example of open source deployment. We are very much Linux shop, but this means adding more and more complexities in the environment. The vendors have delivered one time, but we are not able to support and cope up with our increasing needs and demands. So this has ended up in developing our in-house Linux team, in-house Linux expertise. This is the biggest problem that we face.
Right, we've been seeing this, and maybe if you allow me, I would want to introduce the definition of intelligent workload management, which is the key theme of today's discussion, to set a context in place. What we as a technology vendor are really trying to look at is from a context of what's the state of IT that we see with most customers today. What is possibly the state of IT in the next 3 to 5 years? And how do we address these challenges around saying that how do I make my environment to be less complex, to have lower risk, and probably work at a much lower cost compared to the $1 million of exchange and emails and so on and so forth that you might be deploying, right? So give me an opportunity to run a about a 10-minute chalk talk as we call it, okay? Which is going to try and bring out some of the pain points that we hear from CIOs worldwide, and how we trying to leverage intelligent workload management to try and address that. And maybe that could be a context for us to take your thoughts in terms of that. Is this the right approach for your organizations, or what's your opinion on that? Would that be good?
Daily, I came here right on a day's notice because I never miss Ravia's initiatives. So intelligently organized and prepared to learn a lot. At the moment, since IT ministry is basically we must go revamp, and we are trying to bring it to the fore with new policies, new guidelines. And that is why we have, I know my limitations, that I'm not an IT expert, but because I secured a lot of votes and won the election. So that's why you see me as the IT minister. I have some background in IT, but not a lot. More of a political nature. But I do understand the information technology business. So that is why when I came to the office, my first initiative was to call on the IT industry, which was basically somehow purposive, to very angry with the ministry, and nobody used to come to the office. The offices, the building 6 first floors, so kind of isolated look they were. So that is what we did when we started, when I came to the ministry, that I started gathering my friends. I used to work in the IT industry in 88, 89, 90, in different companies, mostly in the marketing sector. So, जो मेरे उस वक्त के दोस्त थे, they are now heading different multinational companies, and so I relied on them in the beginning. और फिर उनसे जब मेरे discussions हुए, तो I came to know कि सब जो है वो बहुत गुस्से में IT मिनिस्ट्री से, IT मिनिस्ट्री जो है वो बेसिकली एक दुकान है, और उसमें जो दुकानदार बैठा हुआ है वो हर चीज़ का कमीशन मांगता है, और जब वो चीज़ बेचता है तो फिर वो उसकी कीमत मुकर्रर करता है, और वो it doesn't look like an IT industry. So 1.5 साल कैसे में in only 18 months what we have moved forward with is establishing an advisory committee. Because once you realize that you don't have the expertise, and number 2, you don't have the funds to get the expertise, so you then rely on people like Rabia to get them into this advisory committee. So I'm glad the advisory committee, which members यहाँ भी बैठे हैं, तो I've got them. So it's just good.
See, as soon as you said Microsoft, something happened.
The open source licensing a problem. So all these, ये हमारे initiative हैं, and we have got this set of agenda that we are working on. Licensing software, open source, we don't have a very definite policy. We are not in a position to make a policy. It has to be a federal policy, including the national IT policy, which is in the phases of restructuring at the moment. So with seminars like these, group discussions like these, we can promote what the industry wants, and then हमारा package we can include in the national IT policy. Provincial IT ministry is only has the purview of working on government projects. This is what our basic job is. But what we do here, जब हैं province के अंदर, it's a devolved department, remember. It's one of the devolved departments, so we are not into district organizations. हमारा सारा department IT का structure है, EDO ITs के पास है, not with the ministry in Karachi. उसमें हम अपना वर्क कर रहे हैं और इस एडवाइजरी कमेटी के थ्रू, इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एडवाइजरी कमेटी के थ्रू, we are trying to formulate policies and guidelines and protocols that can be then referred. So वो हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि we gather this information and forward it, और उसके अंदर हम अपना blog लिख सकते हैं. Luckily, or for very sorry, not luckily, unfortunately, 2 साल तक तो हमारे पास फेडरल IT मिनिस्टर थे. Surprise. Recently वो advisor appoint हुए हैं. Now federal IT ministry has got an advisor. So for 2 years there was no minister. So ये important ministry है, ये federal level पे it was running without a minister. Now we have got an advisor there. Sardar Lateef Musa साहब. Best of luck to you. But strangely enough, I have met him twice now, and once in a seminar in Kashmir, and once recently in Karachi. Or I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, I must say. He's very keen into promoting IT, and he's very keen into gathering information and formulating the new national IT policy. Everyone is really not working. और काफी discussions हो चुके हैं. So what I would love to have from this this group discussion is the suggestions, recommendations that you want to put forward, and I can be your facilitator, your driving force. I can be that person sitting in a government office working for me. That much I can do, and my office is always open to everyone. To be suggestions or recommendations. So if I need anybody just to sit even, I would like to be present there. Do the job as you have to enable and assist the IT industry as किसी भी तरीके से I can. Second is that I said to Rabia that I will definitely come, but I have to leave because I have a very early flight to catch to London. Got to pack up all my 2 kids and all that. So best of luck. Welcome to Karachi. Welcome to Pakistan and your friend.
Thank you.
Good, and tomorrow the शादी है इससे शेफ सानी आपके कुछ और बात करेंगे हम लोग मीडिया पे. It's too much of that शेफ सानी thing. But no, welcome to both of you, Karachi and Pakistan, and I hope कि जो आप हमारे यहाँ इंडस्ट्री के साथ इंटरेक्ट करेंगे will be beneficial. And I'm leaving this time around, but next time when you are here, Charlie को please लेकर आइएगा, have lunch with us, discuss and see what we can do together. Sure. आप सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. I take my leave now. Can I?
No, just one quick thing while we still have you hostage.
I'm on a separate showcase for the CIOs.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking time out.
I'm Justin Simon, Vice President of Solution and Product Marketing. I'm going to talk with you about intelligent workload management, a new market in which Novell is competing, and we recently announced our intention to become a leader. First, I'd like to talk with you a little bit about what's driving the need for intelligent workload management. Intelligent workload management is being driven by the fact that CIOs need to balance 2 conflicting requirements inside and outside their enterprise right now: flexibility and control. They need to be flexible because they need to be able to respond to the business and have their IT environment respond as needed on demand in an agile fashion so that they can scale up or scale down, increase or decrease computing capacity as needed, that business only pays for the IT resources that they need. Some of the tools that are driving this flexibility are new technologies like virtualization, cloud computing, software as a service. These 3 technologies are receiving a lot of hype, but they are fundamentally changing the way that IT is being conducted. For example, although Forrester research says only 1% of all workloads will be running in the cloud in 2010, I'd submit that 95% of all articles in the press are talking about cloud computing. According to Goldman Sachs, 55% of CIOs will not use the cloud at all in 2010, but that number drops to 21% in 2012. Virtualization also receives a fair amount of hype, but according to Gartner research, only 30% of all workloads will be virtualized in 2010. That means a CIO is trying to manage a complex computing environment of virtual servers, cloud computing, and the traditional mainframe and x86-based architectures that they need to work together to deliver a seamless computing experience for their end user who are simply trying to get their job done and get the business services that they need to be efficient and productive. The business user doesn't really care whether his work is being done in the cloud or a virtual server or on a physical server. He just wants to know that his inventory report is available right now when he needs it. So that's one half of the equation, flexibility, where you have all these computing tools working together to deliver the agile infrastructure. The other competing requirement is the need for increased control. You can no longer just go down and lock all of your data in your basement, put a padlock on the door housing your mainframe. You need to be able to control the access to your data and the security of your data because it's now sitting in physical, virtual, and cloud computing environments at multiple locations with potentially multiple vendors. You need to be able to look at the access to know who is looking at what data and what they are doing with that access. You need real-time security control, monitoring, information to know what's going on and so that you can be alerted if someone is looking at something they shouldn't be so you can take corrective action. There are ever-increasing compliance requirements, Basel II, HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, that public companies and even private companies are required to prove that they are in compliance with government regulations around privacy of data and who is looking at what information, and they even need to be able to go through and audit it. The average cost of a data breach is $6.6 million per breach, and there are more than 300 million records compromised in 2008 alone. What does that mean? The requirements for control are greater than ever, and it's complicated by the fact that there is increasing flexibility of where and how information is stored and accessed. When you add it together, there is a new market opportunity for solutions in intelligent workload management. Intelligent workload management helps enterprises take advantage of the distributed computing resources in a secure and compliant manner. It's a pragmatic approach that helps enterprises leverage the three pools of computing resources: their physical computing capacity, their virtual computing capacity, and this new cloud capacity. Let's talk about how we've evolved and gotten to this point in time. Every IT computing environment starts out like this: existing internal capacity. This is our physical computing world where, historically, one application set on one operating system on top of one server. This world was managed by a set of service management tools like IBM Tivoli or HP OpenView, and a set of business service management on top that linked the IT to the business. And of course, there was requirements for governance and compliance tools to audit and secure the information. I submit to you that the IT world never fully solved this problem before adding more complexity with the rise of virtualization. Now, the CIO had a second pool of computing resources, virtualization, where the application was actually disaggregated from the hardware and can be moved around based on business requirements. There's a second set of management tools here, for example, VMware vCenter, and a very limited right now set of business service management tools that connect the virtualized capacity to the business world. And again, there needs to be requirements for and tools for security and governance. But the challenge the CIO faces is he's got one stack of computing software here, another stack of computing software here, and no tools to link them together. Now, what was going on is this all happened behind the firewall. Still, I can control all of my security inside the four walls of my enterprise. With the introduction of cloud computing, data, information, and applications move beyond the firewall out into the cloud, where someone else now controls the infrastructure. And it starts to get a little bit hazy about who exactly has responsibility for the security. There's no doubt that every CIO wants to leverage all three pools of computing capacity so they have the ability to scale up or scale down on demand and pay just for the IT that they're actually using. But this new cloud computing environment has a third set of IT service management tools and a third set of limited business service management tools. And really, governance and compliance is still very much emerging. In fact, the number one inhibitor of cloud adoption right now is governance and compliance and security tools. The CIO, however, is looking for a pragmatic approach to managing all of this. He or she is looking for one way to ensure that computing is optimized across all three pools of resources in a secure, compliant, policy-driven manner so that they can have one set of IT service management, one set of business service management, one governance and compliance framework, and they can have portable applications that can move from physical to virtual to cloud and back again. Intelligent workload management is a rapidly emerging hot market space, and there are many companies in this market offering solutions for intelligent workload management. What makes Novell's approach to intelligent workload management unique is the fact that we view everything through the prism of identity. Let's take a look at some of the traditional markets that have come together to create intelligent workload management. Historically, there were 4 distinct spheres of management inside the enterprise. There was resource management, which actually tracks the physical hardware and server and applications and deploy those resources in a most efficient manner. There is service management, which linked the IT resources to the line of business. However, these still were 2 separate and distinct spheres of management. There was a security management and compliance management, tracking the actual security of who's looking at what data and controlling the access to that, and then finally providing auditing support. And then finally, there was general purpose OS that underlie every application. Now, general purpose OS was in the enterprise because every application used a piece of the operating system, but there was really no way to customize the operating system efficiently. So we deployed one general OS that everybody used a piece of. And then finally, there was isolated identity awareness in the form of a directory sitting outside these 4 spheres of management. Now, what differentiates Novell's approach is the fact that we've integrated all 4 spheres of management and done it in an identity-managed fashion. With SUSE Studio, we have the ability to deliver a fully supported, customized operating system that has just the bits required for the application running on top of it. We've integrated security management, resource management, and service management into one package so that you can have a real-time, identity-aware view of what's happening inside your enterprise so that you can ensure your resources are being deployed efficiently, they are providing the right levels of business service to your end users, and the fact that all the information is secure, compliant, and auditable. When you put it all together and you put it in one identity-managed package, Novell's approach is unique because we are the only vendor who can put all 3 pieces together: the customizable operating system, security identity software, and the systems management software, and then deliver it in a package that is easily consumed by the customer. The other unique differentiating point of the Novell approach to intelligent workload management is the fact that our approach is modular. Although we offer a complete package, customers can get started today with just 1 or 2 pieces of our technology, potentially one product, for example, Novell Sentinel or PlateSpin Migrate, and then from those products, they can actually move towards the full intelligent workload management vision. Intelligent workload management is a vision for where the market is going. Novell has products today in each of these buckets that then plug in together to deliver the full intelligent workload management vision over time.
Thank you. So I think one of the key things which I thought maybe the video would be able to articulate much better than we getting into a discussion of what the intelligent workload management would do. Look at it from a context of a scenario where somebody mentioned the fact online archiving and the data moves out. There's an intelligent way of storing data where you could still retain the data at the customer side from a context that the data is still available, but at the back end in the data center, using some of these tools, you could segregate data on policies where the data could move into a passive storage and still available to customers. Look at the disaster recovery solution in a box that we've been trying to bring in the market in Pakistan, and a couple of customers have seen this. When you look at disaster recovery, I think you said, sir, that disaster recovery processes. When you look at disaster recovery, it actually becomes a 2-year financial project because there's so much of finances involved, there's so much of complexity involved, right? With the intelligent workload management concept, we've been able to bring in a solution which is like a TV, right? It's a plug-and-play appliance. You bring that appliance into your environment, you don't need to have duplicate number of hardware, you don't need to duplicate your software licenses, you don't need to involve a large SI and worry about support. And at the end of the day, a single appliance can support up to 25 servers, physical or virtual, in a single box. Right? Look at another scenario which is very classical. When we go and buy a mobile phone, today we don't buy the mobile phone asking him that is this a Windows OS mobile or is it a Linux OS mobile. We basically look at the applications, the workloads which we need. So You go and buy a BlackBerry because you want the BlackBerry push email service. You buy the iPhone because of the touch service. So the OS starts to become agnostic. If you look at the intelligent workload management in the SUSE Studio and the concept of customizing OS, some of the support issues, some of the security and manageability challenges actually initiate because of the fact that we are running a workload in a heavily oversized environment. What could be run out of maybe 20% of the computing power that we have, an application vendor comes in and says, nothing doing, I need a specific hardware to run my application. So we were having a discussion where, you have some 40-50 servers there because application vendors have been driving that, and then you try to figure out how do we go into consolidation. But if you look at the intelligent workload management, that basically gives you an avenue to build an appliance or build a workload which could run on a physical, run on a virtual or a cloud computing environment, and ensure that from day one you are at an optimized environment. So some of these thoughts, I was basically wanting to validate with you and check your check your feedback in terms of that. Is this really relevant? Are you guys thinking on these lines? And as you can see, this is an open architecture. We're not really saying that Novell can do this and Novell cannot do this. We're basically saying that this is the way we are seeing the industry moving forward around your infrastructure piece, right? So we're not really touching business applications, but we're still touching the infrastructure space.